Hey, everybody, look at this. Here we are. It's another beautiful Friday. And here in Washington State, it's been amazing. Today was glorious. Sun was out, 64 degrees. I was basking in the sun, working on the roof of the building I was working on. It was an awesome freaking day. Awesome, awesome. So I'm hoping the rest of you are having an awesome day. And if not, welcome to Element 115 with Spaced Out Radio. And I'm your host, Lee Strauss. Tonight, we've got an amazing special guest from the dark reaches of the oblivion coming in. Anyway, but I'm not going to tell you their name yet. I'm going to welcome everybody in. We're going to do the intro, and then you're going to get the big reveal. And let me tell you, it's huge. So buckle up and hold on to your seats as we get into this, okay? So, who's joining us tonight? We've got Wave of Manipulation that has joined in. So welcome, Wave of Manipulation. Of course, we got Race Fan in the house. And who else do we got? We got Kitty Cat Whack here, of course. Search and Destroy. Welcome, guys. We got Stargazer. Welcome to the show is here. We got Mel WD40. And you know what? For some reason, Mel, I think I've seen your name in the background of another person's show. And we're going to look at that a little later on. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's a little hint. Hey there, Cosmic Joe. Welcome. We got Lars Janssen in the house, a fellow Swede. Love it, love it. I'm glad you could join us. It must be early in the morning for you, but I'm glad you're here. And right now, I think that's about it. We're going to go ahead and hit the intro, and then we're going to pull up our special guest for tonight. You guys are going to love this. I'm telling you. All right, here goes the intro. Well, welcome back, guys. That was the intro, which will probably be changed up, in a couple of days, probably, at least for next Friday. Things are changing around here. But anyway, Jax has just shown up, and I'd like to welcome her. And I'd also like to say, welcome to this show. Thank you for the super sticker. We really do appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And let me bring Jax into the stage. Wait a minute.
Oh, hi.
Something's wrong. Jax?
Yeah?
What's going on?
Nothing. How are you?
Something's wrong here, guys.
No.
Wait a minute. Is that Tim James?
Yeah, you told me to wear this wig.
I told you to wear this wig?
It was in my contract.
Well, maybe
Okay,
that's
that
the
was fun.
case. Maybe that's the case, Tim James. Well, I did say the man with, two first names is coming in. So you must be him.
That is I.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, so there's a little bit of news, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm going to break right here and right now. And that's why you see Tim James here. Jackie is taking a step back for many reasons, but Tim James and I are going to be continuing with Element 115. And if you've watched Dave and heard the UFO report, you've seen Tim James there. With Dave Scott on the show, and he's always been a great asset for at least for the last 6 months.
Yeah, since I think beginning of June or something like that, I started with Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been on for a while, and so you are taking Jackie's place here on Element 115. And since both of us have been sharing pictures of each other, of us in our underwear, so I figured why not just have you on the show, since we're kind of already intimately joined at the hip here. So
Yeah, we thought, what the heck? It makes total sense. Believe us. Well, at least in our heads.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I welcome you, sir, and welcome aboard Element 115.
Well,
We've had like I said earlier, we've had chats offline, and I'm glad to have you aboard. But as we've been talking
mhm.
for the past couple months, your interest doesn't just lie within ufology.
No.
You have other interests as well. And of course, with Element 115, just as is with Dave's show, we talk about a lot of different phenomena. And so since you've been talking about, you'd like to talk about those other things, let's get into those other things. What other kinds of things do you have interest in besides just ufology?
Okay, well, first of all, before we start this, I gotta say that I have some very big shoes to fill, and Jax is gonna be missed on Element 115. Love her to death. And, all the fans and all the audience I know love Jax to death. And yeah, we're gonna miss her being on the show. And like I say, I got big shoes to fill, and that's gonna be a lot of hard work. So, in saying that, like you said, you and I both talked about it. Um, Dave really kind of helped, well, not kind of helped groom me into the UFO stuff. I was always interested in UFO things
Mhm.
and the topic because I'm pretty sure as a kid I had some experiences. And I'm still weaving my way through that, and I'm still kind of questioning that a little bit. The other thing is that I also am, ever since I was a little kid, a huge Sasquatch guy. Loved anything and everything to do with it. Even watched TV shows with fake, like actors playing I love that stuff. And then paranormal, huge into that. And not trying to slam anything that's on TV right now. Not the cookie cutter stuff. Like, listening to Merle, everyone knows Merle, listening to Merle talk and listening how he does stuff. That's so cool. Lots of respect and stuff. So yeah, I'm into that. I'm learning some new stuff too. I mean, obviously, I didn't know anything about how the Mandela effect. I find that pretty interesting as well. So yeah, I'm pretty open minded. Some of the stuff is science and it's over top my head, but yeah, I think the main three definitely UFOs, Sasquatch, and for sure paranormal stuff. I love the paranormal stuff.
Right on, right on. So let's get into some things here, sir. Since we're kind of introducing you into Element 115, and you've been doing the UFO report, and it's pretty
Mhm.
much been about current UFO topics that you've
Yeah.
been getting into. So I kind of want to know, and I want to kind of break down for the audience here, Have you had any other types of what we would call paranormal activity around you? We know that you might have had some UFO stuff happen when you were a kid, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if you've ever been in, let's say, or lived in a haunted house.
Yes. Yes. So before, I'm looking, geez, that's probably about 5. I'm thinking about 5 because this happened um, before my UFO sort of encounter. But we used to live in a house in Burnaby, British Columbia, and it's called the South Slope. So the South Slope used to, or does, face old First Nations land down along the deltas and the rivers. So the house isn't there anymore. It's long gone. But as a little kid, my little brother and I shared a bedroom, and we had bunk beds. I was on the top, my brother was on the bottom. And I think my first experience with something paranormal was, that kid situation where the closet door, the monsters under the bed. But there was the closet door would open, and the first time I experienced it, I I heard the closet door open. So I was like, "Oh, being a kid, it's a dream or whatever." And there was a man that walked out of the closet and just stood beside the bed. And I was laid right up against the wall, and just kind of looked at the man, and the man looked at me, and he was wearing like a short hat with a kind of a wide brim on it, and it looked like old work clothes. Not a big deal. And he didn't say anything. He just stood there, and then I was scared to death, and I couldn't yell. I couldn't do anything. And my brother didn't flinch, and the house was quiet. And he just turned around and walked back in to the closet. So I told my dad and my mom the next morning or whatever, and it was a bad dream. It was a bad dream. It's okay. It's okay. Well, this started happening more frequently, and not like every night, but it started, once a week, and then it was starting to happen 2 and 3 times a week. But as a little kid, I still realized that this wasn't fake, and it was every time that the closet door opened, that that was it. I couldn't speak anymore. I could not speak. Didn't have any problems breathing, didn't have any problems moving. I couldn't speak. Then it became 2, and the one night that I realized it was 2 people there, or 2 spirits or entities, I was laying facing the wall with my back towards the edge of the bed, and all I heard was one of them say to the other one, "You don't hurt him, you leave him alone." And I remember rolling over and actually seeing the 2 figures standing beside the bed. And the guy kept trying to reach up and just grab my leg, not maliciously, but just kind of grab hold of my leg. And the other guy kept pushing him away. "You
Hmm.
just leave him alone. You just leave him alone." And every time I told my mom and my dad that there was people in, the closet, it's like I remember my mom getting more frustrated with me because, it's my imagination and that's enough and you're being silly. And I remember my dad going, "Okay, you just that's enough now. You're getting carried away with yourself." And it kept going and I never said anything. And then probably about, if I remember correctly, probably about a month and a half before we moved from that house to the new house that my parents bought, it kind of died off and it went
Hmm.
quiet. But
Hmm.
it was the same thing every time. And they just stand there and stare at me. Like I say, weren't aliens, wasn't it? They were actually people, and they were black. It was black. I could see kind of their faces. There was nothing strange about them. They weren't scary. Well, they were scary because there were people I didn't know standing in my room. That was the only reason they were scary. They looked like old humans. And yeah, so that was my first experience with anything somewhat, or yeah, I'm gathering paranormal.
That's interesting. Now you're saying that your brother was in the same room?
Yep.
Is that correct?
You betcha.
Do you still have contact with him today?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Have you guys shared stories at all?
Not a lot. Like I asked him a couple of times when like later on in the years, and I said to him, "Remember when we lived in that house?" And yeah. I said, I was sure that there was somebody living in that closet, and he believes me. He does believe me, right? But he goes, I never had that experience. Never had, wasn't scared of being in the house, didn't hear or see anything, nothing. He says, "Mm, not one time." And I was like, man, they're standing right beside you because, bunk beds, he's right below me. But
Right.
no, he's never, never had any experience with it whatsoever.
So you said you're in bunk beds, so you're on the top.
Yep.
And were they eye level with you, or did you have to look down at them?
They were about, let's say, the rail and the mattress on the one guy, the first guy, the original guy was taller than the second guy.
Hmm.
And like I say, he wore a hat. The other guy, all I remember about him, he was shorter and he was wearing, remember the old Mackinaws, the red and black logger style jackets?
Okay.
Yeah. We used to all wear them when we were teenagers up here. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I remember that vividly. Always had the jacket on. No smells, no stink, no anything else, just all visual and hearing him. But yeah, I just kind of roll over and the one guy'd be here
Yeah.
and the other guy would be a little bit shorter, but he was always reaching for my legs, always reaching for my legs. And
Really?
yeah, and like I say, not like ha 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 reaching. He'd just reach up and he tried to grab my leg. And the first dude, the tall guy, just leave him alone. Just leave him alone. But they just stare at me. They
Hmm.
just stand there and stare at me. And it was like, oh, here they go again. And then after that, like I say, it actually started causing, and I didn't know what they were at the time, but I started having anxiety attacks as a
Hmm.
little kid, and I used to call them dizzy spells because I didn't know what to call it. And yeah, went to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh no, you're fine." But yeah, I went to the doctor over this stuff, but to explain to the doctor, well, there's these two guys that come out of my closet every night, or just about every night. I was like, no, I'll just suck it up, and everybody thinks I'm silly, so maybe I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering though, with that, do you ever have a sense that there was a third anywhere? Or was it always two? Never any sense that there might have been a third?
It's funny because there was a sense of a third one, but we had a basement that you had to enter from the outside of the house, and it was one of those half basements that had like only like a 6.5 foot ceiling.
Yeah.
And what um it's kind of hard to explain. You'd walk in the door, and so that was the back half of the house was a basement, and at the front edge of the house, the other half of the basement, there was an opening, and there was a monstrous, I mean, monstrous boulder in our basement. And it
Hmm.
was it was like because we were living on a hill, so the house faced the front. So I'm gathering when they were excavating, they were like, "We're not moving that thing." But the thing was massive, like absolutely massive. And it was weird going down there because it just gave you the heebie-jeebies. Like I say,
Yeah.
the 2 guys upstairs didn't, but when I went downstairs, and even if my dad was in there with me, it always felt like something was in that room. And like I say, the opening was huge, like you'd have to climb over a bit of a retaining wall and
Yeah.
into this room, but there was nothing else in there but this boulder that must have been, I'd say, 20 feet around in the middle of our in the middle of our basement. But that was a weird spot. It just seemed creepy in there.
Yeah, and this is the reason why I ask about a third.
Mm.
With abduction phenomenon, there's generally three that come and get you.
Oh.
And so why I'm asking about a third is
Mhm.
when you were having those dreams or those visions of
Yeah.
the two in your room,
Right.
was there a sense, and you didn't have to necessarily see it, but if you had a sense that there might be a third somewhere, I mean, because the mind picks up on things,
Sure. Sure.
you can sense that there's two there. Is there possibly, even though you didn't see it, was there ever a sense that there was a third, maybe even outside or possibly in the vicinity at all that you might have felt was there? And I don't want to put this in your brain,
No, no, of course not.
but I'm just asking you to try to recall if you ever had a sense that there was three in the area.
It's weird because it's a kind of a yes and a no question because
Hmm.
it when the two come out of the closet, it all I could feel was those two. But there was something that traveled in the backyard of the house and um you know could have been I always thought it was just, some kids not supposed to be doing something, they were cutting through our yard, but I'd seen it twice, I think twice, was somebody or something standing under the apple tree looking to the back of the house where my bedroom window was and the kitchen windows were, but it never was at the same time as the other
Okay.
two. So
Okay. Okay.
I don't know.
I got you. I got you.
Mhm.
So in this house where you live, this
Yeah.
house sounds phenomenal, especially with a big,
Yeah.
stone in the middle of. That's just crazy awesome. But did you ever notice any other types of paranormal phenomena? I mean, did you have lights flickering on and off, or did you have cupboard doors opening and shutting by themselves, or any other types of strange paranormal activity happening during that time?
Not that I could recall anything like that, like nothing. I know that the laundry room door would swing open and closed and whatever as a little kid. Dad said, "Oh yeah, that's just because, it's off kilter or whatever." And I'd be like, "Oh, okay." Um, the I think the thing that used to in the house, it was the front door of the house actually that my dog didn't like. We had this little hallway, and front room was to the right of this front entrance hallway, but it was a double door, so you had like a mud room in the front. And my dog would not go in even if the front door was open and the inside door was open, he wouldn't walk through that foyer. He didn't like it. We'd have to let him around the back or my dad did. Remember letting him around the back, but never the dog would not go through the front door for some reason. And I
Hmm.
just thought, dog's weird, you know, just being
Yeah,
I'm just a kid, right? My dog's weird.
right. And another thing that I picked up on, while you're
Mhm,
telling your story is
mhm.
the fact that you had, or this home had, a proximity to Native American land.
Big time. Big
So
time.
that's huge as well.
Mhm.
Are you talking like within a mile of your house, or was this
Oh,
just
easy.
something on the other
Yeah.
side of the fence
Yeah,
sort
no,
of deal?
this is so in this part of town, where we lived, it was called, I think, McKee Street and Royal Oak. So we were 5 5 blocks off of the bottom of the hill, and then everything down at the bottom of the hill was into the flat land where the marshes and the old salmon rivers and stuff used to run, and I can't remember which First Nations group, um, basically inhabited that land. I
Mhm.
used to remember, but I don't anymore. But yeah, that was a huge area for First Nations, like a monstrous area. So and they used to use that to travel to the Fraser and inland and all the way up into the valley into Mission and Chilliwack and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and it was. And again, I didn't know that it was First Nations land till probably about 15 years ago. So
Gotcha.
there was a couple of times that I went, hmm. okay, some of this stuff makes sense, but don't know, man. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Let me just kind of pull you off this topic real quick,
Sure.
and I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
what was the one thing or one movie or show that sparked your interest in all of this? What was it that kind of brought you in to this
Okay.
subject?
So the very first thing that um, brought me into any of it was, again, I was. This is after we'd moved to the new house, not in the same house, and my I think Wild World of Sports or whatever, something was on, and they had the excuse me, they had the thing on Bigfoot and Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest. And I was glued to the TV. I was like, "Are you kidding me? There's a real, as a little kid, there's a monster that lived. That's so cool."
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had said to me, he says, "I've got a book downstairs," and it was, I still remember it, red cover, and it had the First Nations mask, Sasquatch wood mask, carved mask, and it all about Sasquatch. And dad said, I'll go down and find it for you if you want to, look at it and whatever. I read it cover to cover, and I think at that time I was, mm, man, probably about 6 or 7? 7, I think. And I read it. It took me forever, but I did read it, and it just hooked me. And my mom was very, very, very intuitive, like super intuitive. And whenever I delved into anything, like just even showed interest in it, not even necessarily wanting to, study it or anything, my mom was dead set against it, like dead
Ooh.
set against it. Um, why are you reading that book? Well, because it's about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and it's kind of neat. It's a cool story and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, no, you don't need to be reading that stuff. So I actually used to go to the library at school and take out books on UFO and then stick it in the bottom of my bag when I brought it home, and I'd have to hide it so I could read stuff in my room. But yeah, she was nude, and I never, still to this day, and obviously, like I say, she's got stage 7 dementia, so she couldn't answer these questions anymore. But it was like, what was the big deal? Like, you know, mom used to be able to, she could tell you what was going to happen before it happened. A friend of mine drowned up where I live now, not far from where I live now. And she told my friend's mom where she had seen uh, his body.
Yeah.
And they sent the RCMP out, and he was there. Right. Like, I mean, so mom wasn't evil. She was it was all, she used stuff and she was very, very good with it. But I don't know. I guess maybe she was afraid that I would develop that. I'm not sure. So, but yeah, no, she was not happy with me at all delving into any of those subjects.
Yeah, I can sit back here in, armchair quarterback this whole thing that's
Yeah.
going on that you're
Go ahead.
talking about right now,
Go
but
ahead.
I don't necessarily want to.
I
Um,
get it.
but I do get the feeling that maybe she was involved somehow with
Hmm.
possible abduction, and she had, um, because of that, it had opened parts of her,
Sure.
and she didn't want you to be involved in any of that because it is so traumatizing. So maybe she was just trying to keep you away from
Yeah.
any of that and all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just me sitting back here listening to your story, trying to figure out what's going on. But
Well, that would definitely make sense, and but the thing is that, when how would you put it? I think when somebody's trying to protect you, you can hear that, or I can hear the cautiousness and the caring, and even if it's stern, I can still differentiate in the tone of somebody's voice, and I think a lot of people can. But with my
mhm.
mom, it was just do as you're told because I told you to. There was no soft edge about it, and I just thought, she's trying to take my fun away, so that's where my mindset was at, right? But I think you might be right. I think that because she experienced something that she never spoke with any of us about, and had that intuitiveness that she did, that yeah, maybe there was some stuff that freaked her out, and she was like, "Yeah, I hope these kids don't ever have to go through this," right? So, yeah, you may be right, man. You may be totally right.
It's it's a small possibility that that
Mhm.
happened, but it's there. And you said that your father, though,
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, I've got this book with the red cover."
Yeah.
When- So he was kind of on the opposite side of the fence with all this.
Yeah, dad believed it was harmless, right?
Okay.
It was my dad was, or well, still is, he's still alive and talking like he's passed. My dad's a book worm. The only person I know, or one of the very few people that I know that can have 4 different books going at the same time and know what and still keep track of each story, like, completely. So, instead of sitting watching TV, if I said to him I wanted to read a book, he was cartwheeling down the stairs and trying to find me what I would be interested in and to build that interest in reading. So that was huge. And he like I said, he thought it was harmless. And my dad is a massive history buff. Anything to do with aircraft, anything to do with World War, anything to do with Napoleon, like all that stuff. He can name so much stuff that you're just like, what are you talking about? So
Hmm.
yeah, he found that anything that had anything to do with history, anything that had anything to do with information, and especially, local history and information, he was all in. So him giving me the book was him saying, give her, son, go for it. Yeah. Fill your boots. And if you're interested in it, have at her. He's always been that way. He's always been, you want to be a pastry chef? Have at her. You're go for it. Like he just supported you, right?
Right, right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely awesome. So let's diverge from that a little bit,
Sure.
from the house that you were in, and that
Mhm.
the area that you live in up in BC.
Yes.
Is that kind of like a rural area? Is it easy for you to get out into the woods there? I mean, what are we looking? Is it pasture land? I mean, what are we looking at up there?
We're looking at okay, so we are, I guess, 5 hours, 4.5, 5 hours north of Vancouver. So we are just in, I say we because Dave lives about a mile and a half away from me. We're in I guess, a plateau area. So there
Mm,
is a lot of cattle up here, lots of cattle, but it takes you like a heartbeat to get out of that cattle area and into boreal forest. Lots of spruce, lots of, and some of the stuff that you can go through is old growth. And I mean, we're talking big, huge, huge trees. So it's very easy and tons of lakes. And yeah, you could you could explore this area, I would say, and not see everything. It's just that crazily good up here.
yeah, that's awesome.
Hmm.
I live in Washington, and it takes me a good, hour to get out into the bush.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I envy you if you can step out in your backyard and get into the woods in less than half an hour. That's
Oh,
awesome.
easy. Probably like 10 minutes. If I
Nice,
I can
nice.
cross the highway from where I live and go up, and they call it Blue Goose Cattle Company, and it's leased land, but it's, not developed, and it's free range cattle all over the place in through there. But I can go back far and far and far. I've camped up there overnight, just, brought my hammock and stuff, and then, set up everything and have my cameras out and, stargazing and stuff. And I can still hear if my wife hit the alarm on the truck, I could still hear that way off up in the bush, so I'd have to get home or something, right? It's
Nice.
yeah, it's awesome.
That's cool.
Mhm.
So, hold on a minute. How do you
Yeah,
leave
yeah, yeah.
your brother? Good to see you, Jazz. So, as a child, did you grow up camping a lot with your parents? Did you guys go out and do that sort of stuff?
Yes. So we had actually reason I moved up here is because when I was a kid, my grandfather, my grandmother, and my dad and my uncle had bought a piece of property probably about 45 minutes south of here, and they built a cabin on it. So we had a summer place. And I remember
Mhm.
when I was a little kid, I had said to my grandmother, "When I grow up, I'm going to move up here." And she was like, "Well, good for you." And then, that was all good. And then, yeah, moved up here but my mom, not a camper.
Mm.
She was, her parents had like a little RV and her brother had a little RV, and they would be at one of those family, campgrounds.
Like a
And
KOA type
yeah,
thing.
exactly, that's it, and they'd lease their spot for the year or whatever it was, and you go out there, and it was good, it was still fun, but my dad, my grandfather, my uncle, all on my dad's side of the family, like, when we were kids, my dad took us and we hiked, I think it was 10 or 11, and hiked the Trans Canada Trail from Hope all the way up to almost Manning Park with just backpacks and stuff. And yeah, we slept in lean-tos and ate rainbow trout and built fires, and, it was all, I guess, roughing it lack of a better term, but yeah, a lot of outdoor stuff growing up, especially, like I say, with my dad and my grandfather and stuff, tons of it, just tons of it.
Nice. Could you say that when you were out there in the bush, could
Mhm.
you say that maybe you've heard something that you couldn't explain or seen something you couldn't explain out there?
N Not so much. It's funny because, I've had this discussion before. Not so much. It seems that when I'm out there for a purpose, if I'm out there for a camping trip, or if I'm out there just, hunting, it never s I don't I've never experienced anything like that. But weirdly enough, last summer was my first experience with what Dave and I and everybody thought was most certainly a Sasquatch, but we were out there hoping that that would happen, right?
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, I mean, I've heard weird stuff in the bush, don't get me wrong, and I haven't been able to identify it, but nothing that's made me go, "Holy crap, what was that?" Right?
Right.
Um, but and like I say, with me, I don't know, my experiences when I'm out there for a purpose, I don't seem to, maybe I've got that wall up of I'm
Mm.
focused on one thing, so I'm not as open-minded, and I'm just, nothing kinda everything bombards off of me, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking that when I'm out there for a purpose, like, I've seen orbs, I've seen them. When Dave and I have been out, I've seen them fly right behind him, I've seen him in between the trees. It's like, "Holy crap, this is so awesome," right? So it's a little bit
Yeah.
different. I think for me, when I'm out there looking for them is when I usually experience them.
Gotcha, gotcha. So when you've been out there in the past not
Mhm.
looking for those things, you haven't had those types of experiences.
No, I've had experiences where I've been stalked by bears. I'm pretty sure that I've been stalked by, mountain lion or cougar, whatever you wanna call it. But bears love me for some reason, right? But they like to stalk me and follow me ever since I was a little kid, man. Ever since I was a little kid. Doesn't matter. Oh, hey, there's Tim's with us. Okay, he's going by himself that way because
Mm.
he's gonna drag a bear in somewhere along the way.
You're
Yeah.
the guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. They're my friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Until they're not.
Yeah, that's right. "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna get you.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right. So no real experiences other than the times that you were hanging out with Dave and actually, there for that purpose.
Yeah, with Sasquatch and stuff.
Right.
UFO and stuff, that's something I'm still kinda going, "What the heck?" Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get it. We're heading over into
Oh,
that
no, I'm just
direction.
saying, sorry.
we're cresting the hill here, and then we'll
Yes,
drop down into
you're
that
you're
valley.
driving, man. I'm just a passenger in this one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll have plenty of guests coming up, and we'll get to interview
Cool.
numerous people. I've already got people on the list, so
Nice.
but
Nice.
yeah, that'll be good. So in your are you a particularly religious person or no?
No.
You
No.
didn't
I and it sounds so cliche, but spiritual? Yes.
okay.
Believe that there is a higher power out there?
Mm,
Yes. Is it necessarily somebody that lives in the clouds? I'm not 100% sure, right? But
right.
I definitely believe that there's a higher power, and whatever that higher power is basically, yeah, it, to me, that's the spirituality side of it for me. It's
Yeah,
there's got to be something out there, and sometimes you have to let go and
right.
let it happen, and leave it with something or somebody. And I have the ability to do that. I just don't know who I'm exactly leaving it with.
Right, right. Well, that's great too, because obviously, one of the things that some of the people that I'll try to bring onto the show are people that have dealt with near death experiences and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. And I know that we had talked about that earlier, and you
Yep,
said that you have interest in that as well. So,
absolutely.
I was trying to touch on that and find out where your interest lies with that and what kind of background you may have with that, if
Yeah.
any. So,
No, very cool. Well, my brother was Vancouver firefighter and then retired as a chief out in Abbotsford. And my father was a jack of all trades, and but at one point he was a Vancouver City coroner. And it was some of the stories that I heard from him, besides the regular shop talk, which was like, um, yeah, I wasn't in. Like, my brother and him would compare notes, and I think it's a way of off gassing and getting, getting rid of
off
that stuff.
gassing. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
but I was like,
Uh-huh.
"No, no, don't want anything to do with that stuff." But yeah, they they talked about some stuff, and without getting into any great detail, where they were pretty sure that that person was unalive when they
Oh yeah.
carried them out, and
Uh-huh.
then they weren't when they got in the ambulance, and everybody was like, "What the heck?" So,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, definitely source of my interest as well. So we'll
cool.
bring people in for that. If you guys are just joining us right now, Jax is kind of taking a back seat to the show. She's got a lot of things that she's dealing with. So we are bringing in Tim James to be our new co-host here at Element 115 with Spaced Out Radio. And he's a great guy. Obviously, as you guys can tell, he's got great energy, like super freaking good energy, and I love that. By the way, it's awesome, awesome.
Excellent.
That's right, that's right. So we're going to continue talking with him until the top of the hour here. Anyway, so let's start
Mm,
getting into the UFO stuff, Tim. I know that
okay.
the stuff that happened to you. You have mentioned to me that
Yeah.
is pretty pivotal for you.
Mhm, mhm.
And, anything that you can recall that you can
Oh, yeah.
share right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
So, the I get it's not a problem. The issue that I'm having is, with all of my experience, is it seems it it seems very, 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 very real. Like, there's no question that it's not real, but then on the other hand, I'm like, "How real was that?" If that makes any
Mhm.
sense.
Makes
It
perfect sense.
Oh, does it? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because we'd moved from the house on top of the rock. We moved into this place, and I was we're living area was on the second floor, and everything faced the front of the house. All the bedrooms faced the front of the house at this place. So I'm laying in bed one night, and perfectly, there's nobody in the closets there. on, like, just so everybody knows, that was fine. So I'm laying in bed, and all I heard was Tim, Tim. And I'm like, what? I thought, you're half asleep. And I'm like, what's going on? Tim. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, I thought it was my mom or my brother or something. No, whatever. Roll back over. And the same, not loud or anything, just Tim. I'm like, what the heck? I remember, like, who keeps saying my name? And for some reason, I decided I was going to get up and kneel on my bed and look out the window, right? Like, is there somebody in the front yard? Well, across the street from us was an old orchard that was basically on its last legs, cherry trees and stuff all in there. And I remember kneeling on the bed and looking out the window, and there were two moons, right? I was like, what the heck? So it was a full moon and then a smaller full moon, and they were like probably dropped at 45-degree angle from each other. I was like, huh, nothing was moving. Like they were both just sitting still. And I was like, oh, wow, look at that. There's two moons. Like, I don't know. And I went back to bed.
Uh-huh.
So the next night, Tim, I'm like, who keeps calling me?
Yeah.
So again, I get up on the end of my bed, on the head of the bed, and I kneel and look out the window, and there is the two moons again. I'm like, so I remember saying that my dad, I think, had moved out at that time. So I remember saying to my mom, I was pretty sure, I said, Mom, I said, did you see those moons last night? She goes, there's not two moons, there's only one. I was like, no, there's been two. And she's like, oh, don't be silly. I was like, okay, I guess I'm being silly. So next night, nothing. And it was a couple nights later, and it happened again. Tim. Well, I look out, and sure enough, two moons. The next thing I know, I'm walking down the front stairs of my house, out the front door, and I'm wearing my pajamas, and I got bare feet, and I'm walking across the street, and I go through the gate into the field, and I get to just about to the first cherry tree, and then everything stops. Like I don't remember anything, except I do remember it was like a platform that was all kind of lit up, and I
Yeah.
just walked up this little platform with my pajamas on, right? And that's what triggered me is when I first heard you say it, I could smell an ammonia and a bleach.
Ammonia and a vinegar. Yeah,
Yeah,
ammonia
well,
and vinegar.
it was, yeah, something, but I definitely
Mm.
the ammonia. I knew what that was because my mom used to wash her stove racks in it in the bathtub on Sundays. It was like, ugh. But it was terrible. And I got in there, and all I remember was standing there, and I didn't see anything, but I heard somebody or heard something or something. He's so cute, something like that, and it's okay. And that's all I remember. I remember
Yeah.
being the next thing I remember, I was back in my bed, but I freaked out because I got up out of my bed and I was like, I remember going up down the front stairs and I was like, did I leave the front door open? And the front door was still wide open.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I was like, hmm. And then I was like, okay, was I sleepwalking? I'm still looking for answers, if that makes any sense at all, because it's real. It was so real. And the smell and stuff, but those broken bits in the process of the story still just make me go, what happened? What did it really happen? Arr. So yeah, that's what now 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, those are those fractured memories, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. And it's funny is if you ever start to have, go to therapy and they
Mhm.
start doing regression and stuff like that, you're going to start remembering other things that happened to you as a kid, and they're like
Oh,
these puzzle pieces that all of a sudden start linking together, you know?
interesting.
So you're going to go, well, this happened, and it's like these memories start clicking back into place for
Oh,
you.
really?
And
Oh,
it's just it's amazing, and you'll and you'll pick up, like you'll be at work, like after the day after you have therapy, that you'll be at work and you'll have a new memory pop up, and it's like, holy crap, you know, that's
That
it.
would
It
be
just
weird.
it is. It's pretty bizarre. I imagine it's like somebody that has amnesia, has amnesia or whatever, and
Yeah.
then they start to remember things. It's like this
Yes.
part of your life that is so fractured, and then those
Mhm.
memories start coming back, and the whole time was like, is this real? Did
Yeah,
this
no doubt.
really happen to me?
Yeah.
You start questioning yourself, and it's like the rational mind is trying to take control and say, no, this stuff isn't real, when the stuff actually has happened to you, because there's so many other people out there
Mhm.
just like you, Tim, that have been through the very same thing.
That's so cool. I mean, obviously, I've heard some stories and stuff like that, but it just so weird that well, I guess it's not weird. I mean, when you talk about it and you say something, people go and they look at you and they smile. It doesn't matter what you, but that look when people go, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going. To me, it's kind of like, okay, okay.
Right.
There's some
Right.
validation there. We're not getting into huge detail, which is totally fine, but
Right.
everybody's looking at you going, "Right, yeah, right, right."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. They all know. They all know. Everybody that's been through it knows,
yeah, for
So,
sure. It very interesting, and that's what my grandfather said. I said, that was the biggest thing for me growing up. We were walking we were staying over at his house one night, and my grandfather was a no-nonsense World War II veteran, Canadian, and from Alberta, an Alberta farm boy, rode to school on the back of a horse in a snowstorm in his dad's pajamas, one of those guys, and,
yeah, absolutely.
and I remember I went out with him one night, and we were taking the dog out for its evening business, and it was gorgeous out, stars out everywhere. And I remember, and like I say, my grandfather was the best and very just a man's man, right? And you were like,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember walking down the alley with him, and we're taking the dog for a walk, and hey, granddad, yeah, what's up? And I said, you think there's a such things as UFOs or aliens? And he looked at me and he goes, and I'm like, uh-oh. And he goes, of course. He says, what do you think? We're the only plate or the only planet in the universe that has anything that lives on it? He goes, look at all those stars, and there's stars past those stars. He says, of course. He says, we'd have to be pretty selfish to think we were the only living things in the world. And I was like, all right, my
Oh,
granddad just told me it's cool. So
there you go. You got validation there too. That's awesome.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, I think we're gonna have a blast here on the show, and there's gonna be, every week we do this on Friday, and
Hmm.
we'll have guests talking about all these different subjects, right?
That's so cool.
And the way that we work it, the way that this was intended to be, the whole element 115 was supposed to be myself and Jackie,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to keep this format, right? it's
Hmm.
it's a little bit different than what Dave Scott has
Yeah.
going on. He's a one-man band, I'll tell you what. Well, I'm not. I'm not a
Oh, I
one-man
get it.
band, you know what I mean?
I get it.
So I like to play off other people. It helps me out a lot,
Yeah, me too.
Um, and on the weekends, we have a totally a different show going on, right? So with
Mhm.
Rob G, and
Yeah.
so that's a totally separate thing.
Yeah.
And for this show, I just wanted to keep it the way that it started,
Yeah.
with myself and the co-host. And I love your energy. I love the way that you're very animated, and
Yeah.
I it's terrific, man. It's really awesome. Yeah, I dig I dig the heck out of it. So
Jazz hands.
yeah, jazz hands, exactly. So
No.
no, it's cool, and you bring such good energy to the show. Absolutely.
Well, it's funny because, like I said, and then again, in all seriousness, and I'm not just blowing smoke, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say it again. Jax, I do totally respect you, and I respect her.
Mhm.
And yeah, and she's a firecracker, and I've got some big shoes to fill. Definitely not going to try to recreate her because that's just not cool at all. Jax is Jax, and yeah, this is this is Mr. Extra Small Lee's baby. And yeah, I'm just going with the flow. And if I can help out, I'd love to help out. And I'm having a blast already. And yeah, I think this is going to be fun. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun doing this, and hopefully, you know, the audience isn't disappointed because it was just Tim James for the surprise tonight.
No, I think everybody loved it. You coming in with the blonde hair, you know, and I guarantee you, you know
Mm,
what?
mm.
The more times you wear that during the show, the more
Uh-huh.
money, the more money is gonna pour in.
Maybe I'll
They'll
get a
be
whole. I'll
throwing
use
out dollars. Yeah.
I'll use a Dave Scott word. We'll get a plethora of wigs.
Yeah, there you go. You get some sparkly wigs going on.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm looking forward to this, and I do thank you for offering me this. I thought about it for I think all of about a half an hour. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I'm totally down. And obviously we've bantered back and forth off camera and stuff. And yeah, we have a similar sense of humor, and I think that we could actually probably get ourselves into a lot of trouble if we don't keep ourselves in check.
Right, right. Well, it's that's fine too because we always, we have the sense of humor. And that's
Yes.
kind of like what we came to the show with,
Hmm.
and to banter off each other. Obviously there's times to be serious, but
Of
you
course.
know, all around the seriousness is a good time, and that's what we want to have here. We're not necessarily, like I said earlier, we're not necessarily going to be showing pictures of us each other in our underwear to
No.
everybody else, but
No.
there's an inside joke there. I
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, anytime you want to come on the show with that blonde wig, we're down.
All right. Yeah. It's down on the floor here somewhere, but yeah, all right. I can do that.
When you get up from the desk, try
Mhm.
not to slip on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I've got it over the other way. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Right on.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. Awesome.
Excellent.
Anyway, you all, like I was saying earlier, I'm going to redo the intro. We'll be getting some stuff with Tim James in there as well. Make it more,
Yeah,
oriented
yeah.
to what the show is now, and
Mhm.
and get things moving. But I appreciate everybody for joining in tonight. We've got Dave Scott up next.
Who?
Who's the guest? Dave Scott.
Dave Scott. Oh, Dave.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, that guy.
That
That
guy.
guy, right? This
Now,
guy.
who is the guest today? Where's my phone?
Yeah, I
Um,
have I do not remember. But anyway, he will be up next. And you need to join in with him for that show. But
yes.
I will tell you right now, I'm going to be on to do the cryptid report tonight.
Mhm.
So that's going to be me doing. I'm going to do that every Friday night now that Jax is taking a back seat. So
Right on.
just to let everybody know, and I got to go do my research on that. And who's the guest? Did we find out?
I think I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, the 28th. We're looking at Juan Feria. So,
Okay.
and the topic is there truth? Is there truth science? Oh my goodness. Is there truth science we found out about UFOs is the title of it. So,
Gotcha.
Marine veteran. This guy is a Marine veteran that Dave will be interviewing
Nice.
this evening.
Those are always interesting to listen to
Hmm.
them and what they have to say. They got like more knowledge than a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Anyway, and for Element 115 of Spaced Out Radio, this is this is Tim James and I am Lee Strauss, and we're out until next Fridays. So see you all later. And I'm gonna go ahead and pop on the outro.